As I was sitting here editing the podcast video in which this clip is pulled from, I realized that Marcus and I, had the only conversation about crypto that you need to hear in order to understand what crypto is and how it is being integrated within our society and into our everyday lives, maybe without us knowing it. As Bob Proctor says, if you gain anything, gain understanding. I highly recommend you watch every minute of this video to gain a high level of understanding of the state of cryptocurrency and other essential digital assets. Enjoy. Here we go, Marcus. We're back here for another episode. We're going to get into our market pulse, and I'm sure you'll love this initial market pulse section. But ladies and gentlemen, let's welcome Marcus to the episode today.
Yeah, and ladies and gentlemen, let's just give it up for that intro because, man.
Messy, as they say in the French land. But here we go. We're not going to waste too much time here. We're going to get into our market pulse. And so like I mentioned in the intro, this week's edition of Market Pulse, we're going to talk about quick updates, as always, and our thoughts on the factors shaping our financial world. This is what this segment is for. And today, again, we're going to focus on digital assets, a sector that's been a roller coaster of highs and lows and a real test of resilience for many investors, including Marcus and I. So I'm going to give us a brief on the current state of cryptocurrency and determine the trajectory of our crypto conversation here. Cryptocurrencies have come a very, very long way since the days when Bitcoin was dismissed as a fringe obsession for tech enthusiasts. Today, digital assets are at the center, the core of a global conversation about the future of money, technology, and society as a whole. Yes, you heard that right. These virtual currencies are no longer just speculative tools. They're becoming integral to how businesses operate and individuals manage finances. Major institutions, from hedge funds to payment service providers, have poured in resources betting on crypto's potential to redefine commerce and investment. At the same time, governments, including the US government, as Marcus will allude to here in a sec, worldwide are stepping up with regulatory frameworks aimed at bringing structure to an industry known for its dramatic price swings and fast-paced innovation. For everyday individuals like you and I, the value of cryptocurrencies extends beyond the thrill and risk of market volatility. It's about a technology that could streamline cross-border transactions, redefine personal finance, and open up financial services to the unbanked. It's about witnessing the birth of a new paradigm, potentially. Decentralized systems that challenge traditional, centralized institutions. Yet this rapid growth comes with questions, of course, about security, stability, and the role of regulators in safeguarding public interests while not stifling innovation. And a delicate balancing act in how it's handled could shape our financial landscape for generations to come. And with so much at stake, guys, it's natural for people to wonder if they should jump in. Maybe you've thought about this, or hold back, or simply stay informed and stay on the sidelines. Whether you're a seasoned trader or a curious onlooker or someone just starting to educate themselves about digital assets, the truth in this sector continues to evolve at a breaknecking pace. That's exactly what makes it so fascinating and challenging to navigate. Marcus, how close are we to a reality where cryptocurrency transactions become as commonplace as swiping a credit card or using a mobile payment app? I pose that first question.
How close are we to cryptocurrency being basically integrated with our daily life?
I'm gonna pose a different. I'm gonna ask that question.
All right.
I
was gonna say I gotta just let that one soak.
I got a better initial question just to kick this crypto conversation off. In what ways could continued institutional adoption transform the landscape of digital assets? And maybe for our listeners, kind of bring to light just what the main conversation about crypto is and its adoption into everyday life.
Yeah, so that's a great place to start. It's really just the efficiency, the security, and the transparency. Like those three are the main the whole reason why, institutions would even consider it, like governments would even consider it, hedge funds would even consider it, because it's obviously going to solve a particular problem that they're having. And one of those problems on that institutional level is, and we know this firsthand when it comes to, trade, it's sending money, to and from not just people, but like governments and billions of dollars and millions of dollars worth of, funds that are being executed daily, but not finalized for weeks and months, right? I was listening to, I don't remember which video it was exactly, but he was referring to the fact that they have, and by they, the institutions, money sitting in particular accounts for transfer, knowing that it could be delayed. You know what I'm saying? Like, it's not like they're transferring from their main account when I'm talking about this. So,
by institutions, what do you mean? What do we mean by institutions?
Institutions, we can say like Apple, right? Google, Meta, those very large. I don't want to say corporate, because some of those institutions are private. So they're instead of being like, public offered companies, they're private companies. But then like hedge funds, you got, something like BlackRock, that's a, when I'm referring to institutions, let's just refer to it like this. Anytime you hear institutions, just think trillions, not trillions, but at least billions of dollars, billions of dollars.
Certainly. And guys, the conversation we're bringing up here is we're beyond the just mere ambiguity of crypto and, oh yeah, there was a Bitcoin boom a couple years ago, and yeah, people are still talking about Bitcoin, but we're trying to expand upon this conversation, because institutions are expanding upon not just the conversation, but they're starting to adopt these digital assets into their functioning, their day-to-day functioning, their year-over-year, quarter-over-quarter functioning. Crypto is certainly, and Marcus and I will continue to articulate the best we can on this. Of course, we're still in research and trying to learn about this as much as the next person. But we're at I'll pose the Trump quote. Trump stated that he wants the United States to be the crypto capital of the world. That's what I'm looking at. And this is the president of the United States.
Yeah.
Why would it be important for the United States to do that?
Yeah.
What's Trump's interest in making the United States the crypto capital of the world? I'm really excited for this answer.
It's innovation, man. It just comes to the fact that we need to stay the dominant power. And I'm gonna stop saying too. So but no, seriously, it's the way that we can stay the dominant power. Of course, right now we're the dominant power because we have the reserve currency. That is really the only reason that
shout out Ray Dalio.
People are not people, but countries kind of, I would say, play their role in a very light and use that playing role lightly. And so yeah, when we think about right now, like who really can. How are we in power besides the dollar? And when I think about that, we aren't. Like, there's nothing that's really holding us together besides the dollar, because all of our stuff, most of our products, like probably everything in this room, is imported from a China or a Canada or a Mexico, meaning that we're not producing our own products. And so the fact that countries have to trade and finalize the initial trade in the U.S. dollar, right? When it comes to especially our imports and exports, that's given us an edge. And so when we think about the crypto capital of the world, first off, to go back to the first question, like, I think we're starting to realize, and not like we're starting to realize on a retail level, because institutions have known for a long time, at least, we'll say 5 to 7 years, right, of the problems it could solve. Not just the asset that it becomes, but the technology that the problem, the technology that solves the problems, right? And that's kind of that's exactly where we're going. And I saw this video on Twitter the other day, or X. I'm sorry, I don't want to get in trouble for saying the wrong Elon, but no, it was some hedge fund manager. They sent $50 million in 30 seconds, like something that he said that would have taken weeks to finalize. And there's been, I was having a conversation with one of my coworkers before regarding just how much money in fees and transaction fees are lost from sending money and whatnot. So when we think about, like I said, just the constant involvement between countries, like their trade is going to be evident.
And I'm thinking of what just popped in my head is like Venmo, and just like make this as realistic for people as possible. If I'm sending Marcus a Venmo, I'm sending him $20. If Marcus wants to access that $20 right now, they're going to charge him a fee.
Exactly.
And it's for $20 is, let's call it 50 cents.
Yeah.
But let's scale that $20 to 50 million. What does that transaction fee look like? No. And so let's conceptualize, guys, as you're listening to this. This is an issue that is, again, being adopted by institutions that are working with a lot of money, where for me, I'd be like, okay, me being charged a 50-cent transaction fee to get the $20 Marcus to send me, fine, I don't care. Let's do that. But if that's a couple $100,000, you might think otherwise, and you might look for, maybe there's another solution. Crypto that could kind of solve this. Marcus brought up the concept of world reserve currencies. Ray Dalio teaches us that whoever holds the world reserve currency is the dominant power. But as we look back in history, and I recommend you guys go look at our YouTube. I have a Macro Monday video discussing world reserve currencies and what that means, and a little bit more insight into what I'm about to talk about now. Going back to, and I won't even go that far, and I forget the years in which the Dutch were the dominant world power.
It's like 1651 or something like that.
Yep. And so that we'll start there. About 1651, the Dutch and the Dutch guilder, that was the currency, the Dutch currency, was the reserve currency. And so, like I said, 1-to-1 correlation, the Dutch were the world power. And due to a couple factors, which I'm going to get into in regards to the United States, which will speak to why the Dutch guilder is no longer the world power. So the Dutch guilder lost world power, lost world reserve currency. And then we have the British. And this is where history gets a little bit more familiar with me and anybody that's listening to this. When we're in school, in our history class, we don't go back that far necessarily, but we do learn a lot about the British Empire, decently enough, grade school level stuff. But speaking to why did the Dutch guilder, why did the British be overtaken as the world power? And I'm posing this question to you, listener. World reserve currencies, world powers get overtaken because they have a few very key issues. Issues in trade balance, debt, rising inflation, and internal instability. And so we'll just take a pause here. Take a pause. And let's be introspective to us as United States citizens. Trade balance, debt, government debt, that is, inflation, internal instability. If that's not ringing bells and whistles and flashing lights at you as the current state of the United States, then watch the news, read an article, get outside your bubble a little bit, because these are issues that the United States is facing right now. And so because we're facing these issues right now, we're very susceptible to overtake, just like the Dutch were, just like the British was. But so how do we hold on to that state of being the world reserve currency and the world dominant power? And you might think, okay, we're America. America's not going to be overtaken.
Yeah.
They thought that with the Dutch, and they thought that with the British. You can look at history, and it repeats itself. Since the dollar is no longer backed by anything, our currency is very weak in the sense that it's not backed by anything. And so all it takes is the right conditions, trade balance, debt, inflation, internal instability for the United States, for the dominant world power to be overtaken. Hence, and this is, that was a lot of words to wrap around to why I think Trump is saying that he wants the United States to be the crypto capital of the world.
Yeah, I love that.
And the trajectory I could see, and I'm interested on your take here, Marcus. I'll let you go. I'll stop talking for a sec. Is having crypto-backed currency. And I'll just leave this one thing. Gold is an asset that is not in abundance in the sense that there's only a limited amount, in a sense. Like there's a lot of gold relatively on Earth. And as we know, as Marcus and I know, countries over the last couple of years have been increasing their gold stores to large amounts. But crypto is, something that's exhaustible. Gold is something that there's a finite number of, finite amount of, just like crypto, just like Bitcoin. And we won't go into the process of Bitcoin mining and what that looks like, but like you can't just make as much Bitcoin as you want. Like this is a very intricate process of computing, and you can only mine so much Bitcoin.
Yeah, no, I had to bring up a number because we were talking earlier about the fees. Like you gave the example of $20, and you said 50 cents for the fee. So I just did $1.05, 5%. It's like 5%. Around 50 million, that's 2.5 million. Like what?
I'm pissed.
So I'm pissed. Yeah. If you could put 2.5 million back into your, anyways, I just had to. I did that.
I appreciate it
because that was crazy. But no, I've had similar thoughts about the crypto backed currency, and from. And I may be wrong on this, I'm 50-50 on it, but even when it comes to crypto, like we essentially give that value. Like, so let's say everybody took their money out of crypto. All of their dollars, all of their yen, all of their euro, then crypto would essentially not have any liquidity at all. So I think the route is what I've been seeing are dollar-backed stable coins. So making the dollar, making stable coins backed by our cash, right? Which our stable coin is just a 1-to-1. So you give your dollar for one stable coin and its equivalent. But then having gold-backed crypto, that you bringing that up because then the crypto is actually backed by something and people's dollars are essentially backed by something, right?
So it's kind of like adding layers in a sense.
Yes. And the reason why I think that is because that keeps the dollar dominant. Like you've seen Trump's executive order about central bank digital currencies, right? Banning that in the US, meaning that any other like, let's say the Japan came out with their own digital currency, that would not be allowed for any business to use for exporting in the US, meaning that they couldn't get products from Japan, meaning that consumers in the US couldn't buy anything. Like, and it's just a whole freaking trickle effect. Every time I like start to say something like that, I think of Ray Dalio. That video he talks about is, the more people buy, the more somebody earns, the more somebody earns, and the more somebody buys, and like it's just that cycle, which brings us to the government debt, and even thinking about that statistic we just brought up, like with the money that we may even owe in fees, like that have accumulated our debt, could
in the
trim that trade deficit. And I did want to say too, it is government debt, but it's also our debt.
Yeah.
Like the consumer debt, because
100%.
the banks loaned us the money. Where'd the banks get the money? They got it from, everything is just so connected. I would say that's one thing that I've been really fascinated by, bro. It's like seriously, just how connected the world is, and how instability really, like in any country, in any like way or fashion, kind of starts to shake things up. But of course, the dollar, like we hold the deck right now for sure. But it has getting a little slippery.
Yeah.
It's getting a little slippery.
Yeah. And Marcus and I, and we say this anytime we kind of bring any sort of political conversation into play. We have an economic point of view when it comes to politics, and we remain as bipartisan. I think I can speak for Marcus and I. We try and stay as bipartisan as possible, not just in our show, on the podcast, in front of people, but in our own lives.
Yeah.
Utilizing all kinds of resources, watching left media, right media, and everything in between. Stay as bipartisan as possible. So I just want to make that clear as we kind of talk about and bring up some of this stuff. How can our listeners, somebody listen to this, start to learn more, and what should kind of be their approach to crypto? Should they jump in, buy as much Bitcoin as they can? It'll cost them a lot of money, but just buy as much of HBAR. But what does that look like for the everyday person? How are you interacting with the crypto space?
Well, yeah, I'd definitely say, you got to get in the Bloom community. We talk about it a little bit in there right now. But, I just had to throw that in there. But no, I would say the only reason why I'm so invested into it, and this is not like a short-term type of mindset, is because I can understand the scale, and I only can understand that because just done the research, and so I mean, ChatGPT is AI is a great source to start. Like, I can't emphasize how easy it is, and I'm gonna use the word easy, and I know how to differentiate easy and simple, but it's really easy to start learning about this. Like it, and you can put it into terms that you will be able to understand in that moment to be able to make a decision if you think you should put $100 in it. Whatever the case may be, I'll say when it comes to funding, like my approach is obviously only what I can and what I'm willing to risk to complete zero. And so that's with like anything when I'm doing investments or trading, like anything, just because I accept the risk. So if you feel like you may not want to accept the risk, then it's probably not for you. But you also have to be prepared to be on the other side of history for the people that did not take the risk. So it's kind of just something that I would want our listeners to sit with and think, okay, we've seen the world changing a lot. We got freaking cars with no drivers in them. You're on the road, you're looking over, you're like, oh my God.
Every time I see one, it throws me off, bro.
Yeah, and you got in Tempe, they got pizza delivery on like bicycles, and it's nobody, like it's just a robot. So if we can just get a bird's eye on how the world is changing, like really quickly, I think most of us can make the logical decision in understanding, okay, I should at least be prepared. It's kind of like the internet. Like, I was only, what was that, like 2008? Or was it earlier than that?
The internet boom?
The dot-com bubble?
The dot-com, let's see.
When did the internet come out? Yeah, I want to know that fact, because I want to know how old I was.
Yeah, because it was
during that time.
It was right around when we were born. It was 1995 to 2001.
Yeah, and so I'm thinking like, all right, yo, if I was around during that time, like this is kind of like the same. This is kind of like the same time, right? So I'm like, all right, if I was around during that time, and I've now experienced what the internet has become. Like people had the crazy, and people had the same mindset about the internet. I'm like, okay, now I wasn't able to do it at that time. So I'm like, all right. So that's kind of what I've thought about with crypto too. I rather take the risk because we are on the side of history, of things literally changing before our eyes. I started. There's two things I want to bring up where I started to notice that I don't think the majority would have noticed if they weren't aware of like just that type of stuff. But when I saw arenas and most sporting events stop taking cash, that was like one thing that I thought about. I'm like, okay, if these places aren't taking cash anymore, like it's just gonna be debit cards forever, then we went to Apple Pay, and now you got Tap to Pay. But even now, I can see cards not being essentially used, but that's another thing. But the second thing was when they freaking renamed the Staples Center. When they renamed the Staples Center to Crypto.com Arena, crazy. I said it's done. Like it's that we're going towards that. Now, I don't know how long it's gonna take. I don't know how big it's gonna be, because at that time I wasn't thinking on this scale. But yeah, I was like, yeah, this crypto stuff it's for real. Like it's gonna be here to stay if they've just renamed the freaking Staples Center, bro. So
and I think anytime there's a bubble, the .com bubble, the social media bubble, the Bitcoin bubble, the shit happens, and then most people are like, man, that was crazy. I wish I was at the beginning. I wish I was a little bit more in tune with what was going on at the beginning stages. This is your call to start being informed, become informed, gain understanding. We're at a very interesting time in our history in the sense that things are going to change. And I think we all feel it in the internal instability, in the uncertainty. Bob Proctor, he says, if you get anything, if you gain anything, gain understanding. That couldn't be more prevalent, more important than right now. And that's what Marcus and I are doing with this podcast, with our business, with our Bloom Circle community and our platform. We want to get a community of people who are interested in being informed, in optimizing all the opportunities. There's going to be an abundance of opportunities for us to get filthy rich.